Empire of the Skrall, Chapter 1. Tuma woke with a start. Sleep had been welcome, but the dreams it had brought had done nothing to soothe his spirit. Now he sat up in his darkened chamber, staring out the window at the starlit sky of Bara Magna. He had never been one for deep thoughts, doubts, or reflection. His class within Skrall society, those intended by nature to be leaders and the fiercest of warriors, did not place great value on looking inward or backward. Life was simple. Move ahead, conquer, secure what you have taken, and then move on. It was this which had made the Skrall such feared warriors in the Great War, and which helped them to survive as a tribe after the Shattering. Cut off from their homeland after that global disaster, the Skrall resolved to tame the lands in which they found themselves, the volcanic, unstable, and dangerous territory north of the Black Spike Mountains. Although some parts of it remained too treacherous even for them to explore, even after tens of thousands of years, they became the undisputed masters of their empire. Then, everything changed. A new breed of warriors appeared, silent, lethal shapeshifters who struck from thin air and then vanished again. Skrall warriors died by the score, as did the other members of Tuma's class, until only he remained to lead the tribe. Although it went against his nature, Tuma finally assembled the Skrall army and the Rock Gory, and led them south through the Black Spikes to new territories and safety. Tuma got up and walked out of his shelter. Even in the middle of the night, the city of Roxtus was busy. Skrall patrols were constantly on the move, while bone hunters rode up to the gates with captive Glatorian and Vorox to sell. Agori prisoners taken in the desert were hard at work building new walls and repairing Skrall weapons and armor. The work never stopped. It couldn't be allowed to, Tuma knew. He had learned many things during those last battles, when fighting raged from the Maze Valley to the very heart of the Skrall camps. His people could never hold too much territory, be too well defended, or hesitate even a moment in their march of conquest. Although the desert had little to offer in terms of resources, it did grant its owner one thing every leader wanted: space in which to fight. And one day they would fight again, Tuma was certain. One day, the things that stalked the northern mountains would follow them here. For now, though, he could focus his attentions to the south. The villages of Bara Magna were scattered, their relations with each ranging from indifferent to tense. It was doubtful they would be able to mount much resistance if the Skrall attacked now, but doubtful was not good enough. Tuma was not going to risk a two-front war, with the Glatorian and Agori in front of him and his other enemies behind. When the Skrall were ready to strike, Bara Magna must be ready to fall. The leader of a Skrall patrol appeared before him. Tuma eyed him for a moment, noting the damage to his sword and shield. The warrior had seen combat this night. "Report," snapped Tuma. "Bone hunter attacks have isolated Tejun," said the Skrall. "Your representative has met with the hunters to argue against their plans for a raid on Volcanus." Tuma smiled. "And so guarantees the bone hunters will go ahead with it. Very good. And have their plans been drawn up?" The Skrall nodded and produced a roll of parchment from his pack. He handed it to Tuma, who unrolled it and scanned its contents. After a moment, he looked back at the warrior. "The bone hunters do not know we have this copy?" "No, leader," said the Skrall. "You realize, if I find out you are lying, or even mistaken, your head will decorate the walls of Roxtus?" "Yes, leader." "Who did you battle tonight?" asked Tuma. "A Glatorian from the Fire Village and a pack of Vorox, leader," reported the Skrall. "We had paused our rock steeds north of the Skrall River when we were attacked." "You killed them all, of course," Tuma replied. The Skrall did not answer. Tuma's eyes narrowed. "Why not?" They vanished into the sand. Tuma leaned in close. Glatorian do not vanish into desert dunes, warrior. Why do I not see the Crimson One's armor and sword among your gear? The Skrall said nothing. He didn't have to. Tuma knew who he had encountered in the desert. Malum, exiled from the village of Volcanus, now afflicted with desert madness and living with the Voroks. Malum was the most dangerous kind of warrior, one who did not fear death, for it would seem a comfort compared to the life he lived now. He could be a fierce enemy, which meant he could also be a valuable ally. Get fresh rock steeds, Tuma ordered, and take a dozen warriors. I want Malum brought here to me alive. Do not return without him. I am sure you remember the fate of the last patrol that failed me. The Skrall nodded. The patrol assigned to find the Book of Certivus among the western ruins had come back empty-handed. They had been reassigned to punishment duty, feeding the two-headed Spigot in their pens. Spigot being as they were, the feeders inevitably wound up also being the food. It will be done, said the Skrall warrior. Tuma nodded once, a sign of dismissal. As the warrior left, Tuma turned and gazed at the northern sky. Despite how well everything was falling into place, he still felt uneasy. For a moment, he imagined he could hear the shouts of long-dead Skrall and the sound of the invaders' weapons, as if the battles of his past were being fought again. Not now, not yet, he said to himself. But one day, after Bara Magna has fallen, the Skrall will take revenge. To be continued.